Welcome, fam, to Boppin' with Oak. I am here with my dear sister, Randy Gottlieb. She is an educator, and she works very heavily with children's education, and I'm so thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Oak.
Seriously, it's a pleasure. So why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about what you do and where you come from?
Okay. I work with school teachers primarily. I work at Heritage University on the Yakama Nation Reservation in Central Washington State. And most of my courses focus on diversity, multicultural education. I teach a required course, so teachers have to be there. So I have a captive audience. And a lot of the course focuses on many principles that are close to my heart as a Baha'i, which are the oneness of humankind, the equality of women and men, just the beauty of the human flower garden. And we talk about all of those things in class and how to make our public schools, our classrooms, welcoming and inclusive places for all kids.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It is cool.
In your experience, you've probably had a lot of exposure to the ins and outs of administration of education and the education system as it exists presently. Very few people I've asked the question to have said that they found the education system to be particularly satisfactory, like that it's adequate as it is. Obviously, it's functioning to some level, and people are doing their best, and it's not really about the intention, but more the system as it exists. If you were to consider, like, maybe constructing it differently, like, what are some things that you would think about doing differently?
Well, it's actually funny that you asked, because for many years before my family, my husband and I returned to the States, we were overseas in Puerto Rico. Our children were in school there and not having a very pleasant experience, where they would get stomach aches in the morning and say, I just don't feel good, I can't go to school. And then they'd be fine after a little while. So we went to school to see what was happening there, and we're not very happy with it. We ended up starting our own school. So we actually built that school based on what we thought would be a much more positive environment. We had done research on best practices in education. We had visited schools in many parts of the world previously on previous travels, and my husband and I both, and also government requirements of the island. And kind of mushed those all together and came up with a system that was incredible. We thought it worked really well. There were no grade levels, like first, second, third. There were no grades, like ABC. Children should be able to learn in the shortest period of time. And that learning can be joyful. And when you realize that we are one family, and we're working together, and we're spiritual beings, and each of us is like a mine rich in gems of great value. If children actually see themselves that way, as one learning community, then school becomes fun. And so we told all of the children, you're not just a student, you can also be a teacher. As soon as you learn how to do this math problem or read this story, then you can be the teacher for someone else who wants to learn. So we had 30 students and 30 teachers in our classroom. And once you become a teacher, you kind of love doing that, because the other kids said, oh, could you teach me how to spell these words? Yeah. And so kids were setting their own goals, achieving them, setting higher goals. They would assign themselves homework. We tested them and found that they had gained 2 or 3 years academically in 1 year. And these were all kids that previously had dropped out, failed out, been kicked out, because who would take a chance on foreigners with a new school? We didn't know what we were doing. We had never built a school before.